Hey YouTube, it's Charlie from Reader Turned Writer. Today I am sharing 14 tips to fix an unlikable character. One of the hardest things to balance in Act 1 is how to show your character's fatal flaw while also making the character really like your character. If your reader doesn't care about your character or thinks they're annoying or just downright doesn't like them, they will likely close the book and walk away. Today I'm sharing 14 tools that you can use to make your character likable. You can mix and match these in any way, and you can also do these all while simultaneously showing your character's flaw. Although the type of flaw that they have, and of course your character's personality and all of those things will come into play as you decide which one of these you want to use to make sure that your reader really likes your character. One way to make your character likable is to make them nice. When we see people doing nice things, we tend to like them. This is actually where the name for the Save the Cat book comes from. In the beginning of the original book, Blake Snyder suggests having your main character save a cat or do something nice for someone. Even if they aren't nice people overall, our initial impression of them is seeing them in a positive light doing something nice. First impressions with characters are really important. A second way is to make your character funny. I always think of Tony Stark from Iron Man for this one. I love Tony Stark. Even though he's a complete jerk at the beginning and never necessarily becomes nice, he is so funny. I find him hilarious. He also has moments of kindness, usually combined with his humor, and this combination really appeals to me. Another example is Peter Parker from Spider-Man. He has always been my favorite superhero, partially because of the witty things he says to villains and his friends. Another thing we as readers love to root for are underdogs. We tend to like the underdog more than the person who has everything they could want, or even just a head start in the world. A really good way to make your character feel like an underdog is to show their limitations. This would be things out of their control, including things like physical limitations like a disability or a mental illness. Showing an underdog who doesn't see themselves as a victim of their limitations is especially endearing. One character I love is Ava from The War That Saved My Life. She has a club foot, but we get to watch her fight to be independent and rise above her physical disability from the very beginning of the book. As a reader, that really made me root for her. Another great way to create an underdog is to place your main character in a bad situation. When they are a good person and they are stuck, we feel empathy for them. A great example of this is Harry Potter. Harry is a good person, but he's stuck with the Dursleys and treated terribly. This is a tool that is actually often used in middle grade. Another way to make your character likable is to make them relatable. We like people who are similar to us. One way to do this is to create characters who don't have extreme characteristics. Like in Twilight, Bella is the kind of character that a lot of people can put themselves onto because she's a little bit bland. But because we can relate to that, we don't mind, and we still like her. At least I did when I was a teenager. Another way to make your character relatable, but still distinct, is to make sure they have flaws. Your character yells at their kids sometimes? Hey, so do I. Your character eats too much sugar? What do you know? I do that too. This flaw is separate from the flaw, the fatal flaw, that they fix throughout the book during their character arc. The sort of flaws I'm talking about are part of who they are. It's their character. And they show us that your character is human. Because we can relate to them, we start to empathize with them. A character like this that I love is Ella from Ella Enchanted. She has strengths, but she also has flaws. As a child and then teenager, I connected with her on a very personal level because of both her strengths and her flaws. There are tons of ways to make your character likable, but sometimes you don't necessarily want your character to be nice. Remember Tony Stark? One way to help a reader like a character who has some negative characteristics is by giving them great motivations right from the start. Some of my favorite characters who have great motivations include Kelsier from Mistborn, Batman, Charizard from The Wrath and the Dawn, Kaz Brekker from Six of Crows, Pip from Great Expectations, and Alosa from Daughter of a Pirate King. One way to highlight your character's motivation is by making them proactive. Think Indiana Jones, or many superhero movies do this as well. They are reactive during most of the story, reacting to what the antagonist is doing so they can save the day, but their first scene is proactive to give that first impression to the viewer or the reader. Proactivity is also a big reason why many people's favorite characters are the antagonists. Bad guys are proactive. They are proactively trying to do bad, but we almost don't even care because they are so proactive. We as humans just love proactivity. Another way is to give your character a want. Characters who want something are much more attractive to us, and it's easier to make them proactive as well. It's great to tie their want into the plot, because then we care deeply about what's happening to the character as the plot progresses. It's also great to make their want or goal deeply personal. The more personal their goal, the more likely we are to empathize with it. Kelsier's goal is personal as we learn his backstory, and especially about his love for his wife. Batman wants to avenge his parents. Shahrazad's motivation also stems from vengeance. Pip's motivation stems from a long-held love. Another way to make a reader really like a character is to make your main character very competent in a very specific area. Some of my favorite competent characters include Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, coolest character ever, Sherlock Holmes, Percy Blakeney from The Scarlet Pimpernel, and Mark Watney from The Martian. One thing to remember with this is that it's great to give someone a skill they are highly competent with, like the sword or as a scientist, but you can also use this with characteristics. My favorite example of this is in Lord of the Rings. There are a lot of really competent characters in Lord of the Rings. Aragorn, Gandalf, Legolas, Gimli, I could go on and on and on. A lot of people, though, wouldn't think to include Samwise Gamgee in this list, but he could be included. The characteristic that he's highly competent in is loyalty. He is fastidiously loyal to Frodo from the beginning to the end, and if it weren't for this characteristic, good would not have won in the end. Sam is actually my favorite character in both the movies and the book. So yeah, there are a lot of ways to make your character likable, even if they're not nice or likable in the way that we normally would think. If you know of one that I didn't mention here, drop it in the comments below. I'd also love to hear who your favorite character is and why in the comments. If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe for tons more writing content. Thank you so much for watching my video. I will see you in the next one.